You're live.
Okay, thank you. We can, did we lose? Oh no, Delene, you're still there. You moved around on my screen. I was afraid we lost you and that would be a problem.
I'm here.
Good. Okay. Does anybody not have a copy of the agenda? Because I can share my screen, or if you all just have your own, that would be easier for me. All right, hearing that nobody needs a copy. As I mentioned to those of you that were here a little early, we've put our new business at the head of our agenda because we have two guest presenters. One is Kim Morton and the other is Vanessa Valadares. We have been talking about bus stops for a while, and Kim has been rather busy with, she's probably always busy, but even busier as many city employees have been since the advent of the pandemic. So she's finally had time in her schedule to join us tonight, and she's joining us from her car. So Kim, if you want to take over here.
So I guess we were just, I'm not sure that we were to make a formal presentation, but we supplied you with all of where our bus stops are located. Maybe just to give you a little background. First of all, thank you for your patience and moving things off for a little while. It's been very crazy the last couple of months, and things have quieted somewhat, but hopefully we don't see a tick up in the craziness. But again, thank you. And so the district, our shelter program is under contract with a particular shelter, bus advertising shelter company. And that company contract expires in the July 31st, 2021. So effective, I think mid-August sometime there, or around there approximately, we will have gone out to bid and we will entertain proposals for additional companies. We have to engage in that process because anything that utilizes in any way or form federal assets, we need to make sure that it's open to the general, anybody that could have a vested financial interest, and everybody's treated equally and the same. So with that said, right now we have very limited opportunity to do very much with any of our existing shelters because nobody wants to put the investment, the existing company, into the shelter because it's usually a 20-year contract without knowing that they're probably not going to get they might get the contract or they might not. There's nothing carved in granite. I can tell you we have not been happy with the revenue we've been receiving from this shelter contract. And so we are eager to go out to bid. Some of the problems with even a new shelter company coming in, it is going to be a very expensive endeavor for anybody to put up shelters within the city. Any new shelters that are put up, they have to meet the ADA accessibility guidelines. And if you look at some of our shelters, there's no sidewalks, there's no curb cuts, they're not set back from the street. So there's all kinds of, problems from a financial perspective that would have to be addressed to put in any new shelters. So that's basically where our shelter program stands. Am I missing something, or is there something you would like me to further address? I don't know if Dennis is on the line, but he could add in if he's got online.
Yeah, well, Kim, since you can't see what we've got, I am showing the first part of the spreadsheet that you shared with me late this afternoon, and I will be sending it out to the members of the commission later on. And if I can find it, I will also show your map here.
Great. So yeah, that is a listing of all the shelters and their locations. But like you said, you know, when you take a look at some of those, yes, the shelters are old. They've been recently refurbished slightly just to include a basic paint job and a incorporation of our general logo. I understand that there's been some further discussions of particular interest is putting one at the Department of Motor Vehicles. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Across from DMV. But again, as I mentioned, there's the new company most certainly is not going to take on that at this point with only 9 months left in their contract and no commitment for the future.
Sure.
And we've been told it's going to be extremely costly to put in that shelter. So we don't have any particular funds allocated for shelters, but that doesn't mean that that's not a high visibility area, and a high visibility area for the possibility of advertising revenue. The shelter company may look at that as something of interest that they may want to put a shelter in and make that investment. We can apply for federal and state funds for shelter rehab. Prior to COVID, I would say that would have been a good investment. I'm not sure what the position is going to be on the state on future capital endeavors for the next couple of years right now, but they have always been very generous with the district, the state, in meeting our capital needs. I can tell you from an operating perspective, our budgets were held flat for this year, so I would anticipate more of the same in the capital program going forward.
Okay. Does anybody on the commission have any questions or comments?
I do.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I'm sure this is very naive, but I'm wondering, when I go down Connecticut Avenue and I see people sitting on sideways shopping carts waiting for a bus, I'm wondering if anybody ever approaches the stores that they're sitting in front of and encourages them to put a shelter.
This is what I know Dennis had done some research on there, and unfortunately he's not able to get on the phone. But the problem with the stores wanting to put shelters, it's a huge liability, right? They've got to have insurance. If it's on a store, it's a state road. You're going to have to get state rights approval. And you've got to maintain it. You've got to have it shoveled in the winter. And that's why we tend to use a shelter company that can get some advertising revenue, and they're responsible. So we don't maintain any of the shelters. They're all contracted out. The only ones that we maintain are the one at our transportation hub.
I think Dennis is on the line under your name. Dennis, are you there? Because I see two Kim Mortons. Dennis? Okay.
All right. Sorry. But,
That's okay.
But that's always been the issue. Sorry about that. Is that, the companies don't want the liability. Somebody slips and falls in the shelter. It wasn't properly shoveled. Then it becomes a liability for the owner of the shelter. It's one of the reasons we contracted a
Catherine, I'm here.
Good. Okay, Dennis, did you hear the question?
No, I did not. I'm sorry. I had trouble getting the internet.
The question, Dennis, can you hear me? This is Catherine. Dennis? Well, okay. No, I think yeah. Okay.
Well,
Dennis seems to be having technical difficulties.
yeah.
But that is it. But if you'd like me to follow up, I mean, I know there was the DMV one and the one on Connecticut Avenue, correct? Was it the one on Connecticut Avenue? The one across from the fire station. There's been 2 locations that are interested in shelters as far as we know right now and that we've been dealing with.
Well, Kim, it sounds to me like most of the concerns that we had about bus shelters will be solved by going forward. Bus shelters needing to comply with the disability. Yes,
The
thank you.
ADA, right,
Right.
accessibility guideline.
Yeah, I think that really will cover most of the concerns that we had about some of the bus shelters that we felt needed some significant help.
Yes, and we agree they need significant help. The problem is, once you change them or move them or do any kind of rehab on them, they need to meet those new standards.
Right.
And like I said, the shelter companies are not going to make that investment. Now, I don't know, is that most certainly we would love to partner with the city if that's something that they would like to see as, you know, as a joint project going forward. We are moving forward with a bid to take effect for the next contract year for the shelters. But I can tell you it will be a somewhat of a deterrent, probably, the expense of putting one in. So they will have to make sure that they're going to cover their costs over the term of the contract through the advertising revenue that's received.
Sure.
But maybe the city would put in sidewalks for it, or, you know, I don't know, or curb cuts or things like that, where they could just put the shelters in. I don't know if there's been any discussions of that.
Yeah, not really yet. Catherine, would this sort of fall under TMP in terms of?
Anything, what falls under TMP related to sidewalks are the installation of new sidewalks, the repairs of existing sidewalks, falls under Public Works, and Vanessa will address that shortly. But yes, if there's a new sidewalk that would be required related to a rehab of the shelter to comply with ADA standards, then yes, that would fall under TMP's capital line item for new sidewalks. And we would, you know, we can talk about that as if that's a priority for the bike walk. And
Yeah, so Kim, you know, perhaps as you go through this process, if we stay in touch, the Bike Walk Commission, as well as TMP and Public Works.
Yep. What is TMP? I'm so sorry.
that's transportation, mobility, and parking.
Oh, that's you.
That's me.
That's you. Yes, I know you.
Hard to forget that face.
No, that's you. I'm sorry.
I think.
I'm not used to hearing it.
No, it's okay, but you know, it's such a mouthful, so we've shortened it to TMP. It's kind of like Public Works. We say, instead of saying Department of Public Works, we say DPW.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so that was good. Most certainly, and you know, as we move forward with that bid process, it would be nice to have somebody, you know, from the city, maybe sitting on the evaluation committee and being part and reviewing the spec prior to the issuance of the RFP on the street. Because that would be very favorable if the city was willing to, you know, address the sidewalk issues and things. So you know how long ago the ADA passed in 1990, so I can tell that's how long those shelters have been up.
Wow.
Because none of them are accessible that I've seen, other than the ones that are transportation hub on Belden Avenue.
This is Teresa from the Health Department. I apologize if I've missed this in past meetings, and I'm sure it varies really widely, but do you have an estimate of about how much it costs to either improve or install a new shelter?
The shelter alone is about approximately, it could range from, I would say $10,000 to $25,000. With, if you see the really slight shelters, I would say that we have up right now, they're pretty much bare bone minimal shelters, the ones that you see now. The nicer ones with solar. There's all kinds of shelters now, solar panels for lighting and, so see, what kind of seating you're going to have, if any, and, how you want the exterior design to look to fit. If it was on Washington Street, I could picture some wrought iron, shelters and things of that nature. So it really goes up, but I would say from, 10 to 25,000 probably. Maybe it could probably be higher.
Okay, thanks. That's good to
Okay.
at least have the ballpark.
That's just the shelter and the
Yep.
installation.
Okay, well, Kim, thank you, and thank Dennis for joining us tonight. And, it sounds like as you go through the process, if you keep Catherine and Vanessa apprised of where you are, they can probably make a decision as to whether it makes some sense for one or the other or both of them to be involved in the process from the sidewalk point of view. Okay, Vanessa. Thank you also for doing your very extensive PDF and joining us tonight. And if you want to share your screen, since you have the updated version, that would be great.
Sure. So thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. So for those who do not know me, I'm Vanessa Valadares. I'm the principal engineer for the Department of Public Works. So Nancy asked us to come here to talk a little bit about sidewalks. So I'm gonna share our plan for the sidewalks, but with that, I also wanna explain how we choose which sidewalk will be completed in the next few years. And I think this is very important for everybody to understand, and the difference that we look at sidewalks and how TMP also look at sidewalks. We go through this back and forth a few times during the year. I know it's a little bit confusing, but I'm hoping that after 10 minutes, you guys will be able to understand. So before I share my screen, I just want to go through the major difference between the sidewalk program under DPW and then under TMP. So DPW, the only thing that we do, we restore existing sidewalks. We do not install new ones. And TMP would be responsible to install new ones, or kind of at least design where new sidewalks would be installed in the city. So this is kind of pretty much, in a big picture, the main difference why sometimes you see on the budget new sidewalks on both departments. So DPW only kind of restore existing ones, and TMP would be the ones that will be assessing an area and then see if a new one would be installed. And there is a little difference when we would install a new one is only if there is missing a piece in a block. So if we're restoring a block and then we know that sometimes a couple of houses or a couple of properties in front of it do not have sidewalks, we'll continue that through. So that would be the portion of a new sidewalk that DPW will do, okay? So how we decide which sidewalks we're gonna restore. Our sidewalk program actually follow our paving program. So for those that are familiar, we have a 5-year forecast on the paving program. And until last year, the sidewalk, the money, the budget for the sidewalk was wrapped up inside our paving program. And since 2019, we decided to show as a separate item so people can have a better idea about the cost of each one. But really what dictates which sidewalk we're gonna do is our paving program. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about our paving program, then you guys can understand how we decide which sidewalks will get done. So we have a 5-year forecast to come up with a list of which streets will need to get paved. So how we come up with that list? It's a formula. And we could take, actually it's 2 formulas that we do. And we have a paving managed program consultant that is, now it's VHB, that help us to put this formula and then come up with the results of what we're gonna add to the list. So 2 things we consider on the formula. The first one is the PCI, that is the Pavement Condition Index. So pretty much what they go there and they survey the top of the paving and also the base, okay? And then we're gonna see what are the conditions of that road. And then we're gonna get like, so the lower the number, you know, the worse is the condition of the road. So means that, okay, this road will need to get some kind of attention soon. So that goes to one formula. Another thing that we also consider on that street is what we call the benefit value. In other words, if we repave that road, what will be the value that will bring to the city, meaning how much less we'll need to maintain that road in the future. We try always to keep the roads in very good shape in a way that we don't have to reclaim the whole road. So if we keep changing the top coat, that is the paving, every X years, it shows that the base will not gonna be affected. So it's easier to maintain, and also on the long term, we're gonna save in maintenance. So pretty much we have the PCI and what we call the benefit value of it. Now, you can tell me, okay, a street that doesn't have too many traffic, the PCI will not gonna be affected too much, right? So if you compare East Avenue, for instance, with a cul-de-sac, the cul-de-sac will never make to our list because the PCI there will always gonna be higher. So after we run those 2 formulas, we try to do 20% of the roads that come out from the PCI, and 80% of our list comes from what we call the benefit value. So with that, we join our list. So after we have that list, those streets will be in our 5th year forecast. We divided the city in 4 quadrants, and our consultant evaluate one of them each year. So every 4 years, we have a full understanding of the road conditions. And whatever comes out from that year, those streets will get pushed to the 5th year. That's why we do a 5-year forecast. Is that right on stone? Unfortunately not. Why? Because there are some other projects that affect our list. So usually we put those lists that come out from this year, should be, let's say, if we just got the list, it will happen on 2025. But sometimes when we get closer to 2025, we heard that maybe one of the utility companies will have a major project happening on that street. And then unfortunately, we cannot make that road on 2025 and we'll push to the following year. Sometimes can be a developer. We know that will be a developer on that street and that is happening next year. And then we have a certain street that was gonna get paved and that get moved on. So after we set up all the paving roads, that's when we go back and now evaluate the sidewalks related to those streets, okay? So the sidewalk, again, is kind of a subset of our paving program. When we go look at the sidewalks, what we look for? The first thing is that we look is if we need to regrade that road. If we need to regrade that road, usually for drainage purpose, means that we're gonna redo the sidewalk because we'll have to change the grading of the street and that will affect the sidewalk. The second thing that we need to look at is at the curb. Sometimes there is no curb review. Sometimes we need to change that curb. So that is another thing that kind of moves that sidewalk to happen. So I would say that with that, this is how we come up with our list. So it's not that we go out and said, oh, we believe that we need to repair this sidewalk. It is a whole process. Sometimes it happens, we get like some complaints, we go there and we evaluate and we'll try to incorporate those streets in our forecast. But pretty much the bottom line is our concrete program follows our paving 5-year forecast. And that's when now I'm gonna show you the map. Let me share my screen with you and you're gonna see how it looks here and will be easier to understand. Can you guys see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yep.
so I know this is a very big map, so I'm gonna go I'm gonna move a little bit around. It's heavy, so it may take a little bit of time to go up and down. So all these beautiful colors that you guys are seeing is just our paving. If we see here on the left, hold on, one should. You see, this is what we have the paving forecast. So yellow was 19, green is 20, blue is 21. And then we try to make a couple of areas where you guys, let me just move the zoom to the side so I can show you more. So I want to focus on what we have been doing now. Let's see. Okay. So this is the area you see that we have the paving as 19 happening and then the sidewalk as well. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we did, and then I also want to talk about budget. Last year, and this is around here, we were able to do South Main Street, Hemlock, Bell, Chapel, Commerce, Academy, Hoyt, Eli, Knight, Laura, and then a couple of ADA ramps around Wall Street area. For the 2020 year, we're doing all this area here around First Street. So we're doing 1st to 5th, Cove, Hawkins, New Street, and Edgewater. And now we're hoping this week we're gonna start here at Woodward, and with that contract, after we're planning to move up to Ohio area. And then probably if there is some money left in the budget, we're gonna try to get Bartlett Manor done. And for 2022, we're planning to do Bayview, because although we're showing as 2021, I mean as 2021, we believe that we're not gonna have time to finish that area, so we may probably get moved to 2022. And also when we go near West Avenue, that Buckley Maple probably will happen in 2022, because as I said, we have a couple of utility projects happening in that area and also some developing that will happen, so we're holding on that. Also, I just want to share with you some numbers so you guys can understand the cost of the sidewalks. So as I mentioned before, in 2019, we broke up the sidewalk program from the paving program, so we believe that it's easier to track how much money we're spending and actually how much money we need to do all these sidewalks around the town. So last year we asked for $700,000. I mean, we got it $700,000. But what we did is we ended up pulling some money, actually a lot of money from our paving program to be able to finish the sidewalks that we have to do. And we ended up getting $1,840,000 from the paving program. So with that, we spent $2,540,000 on concrete sidewalks last year. This, I say last year, but this is still going on. This contract is still active, and this is the money that we're finishing up the 1st Street, 5th Street area.
Can you repeat those numbers? So that was 700 was your budget?
700 was originally on the concrete sidewalk, and then we add another 1.8 that we got it from our paving program.
Okay, so then
So
you
instead
ended
of
up with-
spending just on paving, we ended up spending that money on sidewalk. And
So
the
you-
reason for that
Yep.
is that if we don't set up the curb, we cannot pave. We need to, as I told you, we need to regrade the streets and set up the curb on the right elevation, then we can do the paving. So some of the areas that we know that really need paving, if we have the sidewalk that needs to be repaired, we have to do that in advance of paving.
Yeah, thank you. So your total for the year, for the 2019 year, I guess, was about 2.5?
2.540. but that money is not
Thank you.
finalized yet because we still
Yep,
have
that
that.
was it.
contract
Thank you.
open. So how much did that money gave us? So as of now, again, we haven't spent it all, but from what we have spent so far and the square footage that we did about 60,000 square feet of concrete sidewalk, and we spent about $1.5 million, which brings us to about $25 per square foot on the sidewalk. If you go and look at one of our bid items, you're gonna see that usually the bid price for a concrete sidewalk just for the square footage is $15, but what really costs is $25, because that number is including the curbs, the linear curb. Sometimes we need to do some caulking walls behind the sidewalk and also some drainage. It's very common that we find some drainage issues on the sidewalk that we need to take care before we put the sidewalk. So just for the numbers that we have as of today, I would say that around $25 per square foot is usually the cost for the concrete sidewalks that we have. This year on 2020, we were able to get 2.8 million under the concrete sidewalk, and we already issued that contract that was awarded this month. We are hoping to get the contractor on site on Woodward Avenue as early as Wednesday. And
how does that price compare to paved streets per square foot?
I don't have the number in front of me, but concrete is much more expensive than asphalt.
Okay.
I would also just wonder, do you have a lineal, like a running cost? I mean, obviously we can take the area and do that, but is there like a typical sidewalk width that's minimum?
No, we usually do actually the main unit would be square footage, because we pay by square footage because of, it depends on, some of the roads have different, we have to keep at least 4 feet of sidewalk width for ADA compliance, but we are really trying to make it wider. We want a 5 feet minimum sidewalk, and now in some of the roads our standard is 7. So if I give you a linear foot, I think that the number will be totally off.
Okay.
So usually it's not the practice of the industry. We give sidewalks by square footage. Only curb that we consider
Okay.
by linear.
Sure. Thank you.
Vanessa, it's Judd, are there any asphalt sidewalks?
We don't do that. You know, we just do in case it's kind of temporary or in some particular areas that we are asked to. Mm-hmm. But our standard is concrete sidewalk and concrete or granite curb, depending on the area that we are. Okay. So for instance, in some of the areas where it's considered a village or a district, then it's granite curb, what is more expensive, and then a concrete sidewalk. Some of them also requires that we reinstall brick pavers as well. And that of course, just increase the cost of the sidewalk. But these prices that I'm giving you, we're just calculate on a typical concrete curb with a concrete sidewalk.
Well, thank you very much, Vanessa. I think this has been very helpful, and we appreciate all the work you put into the map and to this presentation. Does anybody have any last minute questions?
Just one more clarification, Nancy. Is that, you said the concrete curb, does that make a difference if it's a precast curb or a formed curb?
We leave the contractor to do that. Most of the time they cast in place, it's cheaper for them. Okay. So the only thing that we do not allow is monolithical curb, which means that we want a little bit of the foundation. So the monolithical curb just sit on top of the asphalt. We don't like that because as soon as you plow, the chance that gets removed, it's quick. So usually, unless if it is like a special approval that we need to do for a special condition. But we really, for us, it doesn't matter if it is precast or if it is cast in place with just one that has, that is a 2 pieces and not only 1 piece as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Nancy,
well-
I have
Oh,
one
sorry.
question.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Again, I apologize for my elementary understanding, but I know now I know for sure the difference between who handles the repairs and who handles the new sidewalks. I finally got that part down. But so my question is about the like, I don't know if you consider the blacktop like pathways that are kind of like half paved in some parts of the town. Are they considered sidewalks, or like where would they
They are considered, I got you, Teresa.
fall?
So they're considered footpath. And what the guidelines that
If
we
we said
follow,
upgrade them to wider, what's
it
that?
is the footpath, unfortunately,
Yeah.
they don't meet the ADA standards. So
Right.
what we do is, if we're paving an area that already has existing footpath, and then if the footpath is in bad shape, we're gonna just reestablish the way it was, and will be made of asphalt. We don't make it with concrete, but we don't install new ones, because
Right.
what we touch pretty much we own, and we have to make it ADA compliant. So the only thing is that if it is like a tripping hazard, we know that it's not good, it's more harmful than good, then we replace those.
Okay. But if we, if someone was to say, I'd love to see the footpath replaced with a adequate sidewalk, would that fall to the budget of TMP or DPW?
It will go to TMP, because then
Okay.
they have to evaluate if it will be feasible to install,
Sure.
what will be the right of way, because we have to see if we have enough state that we can install that, and of course the budget. So then that's why the planning for new ones will follow under TMP.
So
Okay.
I want to just elaborate a little bit on what Vanessa just said. She's correct in that TMP would be responsible for, again, like she said, evaluating if it's possible to replace a footpath with a new sidewalk, the priorities, collaborating with Bike Walk and Ped Committee, and going for the funding, whether it be through grant funding or city capital funding, and then providing the design, collaborating with Public Works. Once the design is complete, then that goes over to, I'm being very simple here. There's always a partnership and a collaboration between TMP and DPW, but that the installation, the actual construction is part of DPW's responsibility. Just so you understand what the process is, but there's a continuous, ongoing, daily, sometimes second by second collaboration with DPW.
Sure.
That's correct. And the reason why we do that is that sometimes if there is some new sidewalks that will be installed, we can try to wrap up when we put our bid, so we can get much more competitive prices.
Right.
Sure. Great. Thank you. That helps my understanding. Appreciate it.
All right. If there are no more questions, again, thank you to Vanessa and also to Kim. I think the information that you've shared with us is very valuable to the commission. So thank you again. And Vanessa, if you want to stop sharing.
I will. Thank you so
Thanks.
much for the opportunity. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to email me or send to Nancy, and Nancy can contact me, and I'm happy to answer. Have a good
Yes,
night.
thank you for having us. We appreciated it. I'm
Thank
going to
you,
listen in
Vanessa.
for a while since I'm here.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Okay, back to our agenda. I don't believe there's anybody on from the public. Oh. So I think we can dispense with public input. And so the next item is the approval of the August 3rd minutes, which were circulated with the agenda. Could I have a commissioner move the acceptance? Okay, Tanner steps up to the plate. And a second, Judd, thank you. Were there any additions or corrections? If not, all in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye. Aye, okay,
Aye.
thank you. The next item is the chair's report, and it's a relatively short one. I think you all are aware that Deborah Lewis has resigned from the commission because she sold her house in Norwalk and is currently residing in Vermont. She not only did an incredible job as a commissioner, but she was the original chair of the pedestrian committee, and having no previous pedestrian committee to build on, she, I think, gave a really very good foundation and direction to that committee for the first couple of years. So thank you to Deborah for all the hard work that she has done, and I think you'll hear a little later from Tanner that she's going to continue to be somewhat involved with the commission as well. Happy to say that the mayor has appointed Sam Ebert, who's on the call today, and in a minute I'll embarrass him by asking him to give a short introduction to himself. He will be fulfilling the rest of Deborah's term, which expires on June 30th of 2021. Normally, the Common Council takes up appointments at each meeting, but for some reason, they are not going to do that at their meeting tomorrow night. So it will be the second meeting in September, on September 22nd, that they will consider Sam's appointment. And given our past experience, I do believe that he will be appointed. So he'll be an official member of the commission for our October meeting.
First time for everything.
Sam, you want to give a little introduction to yourself and maybe talk for 30 seconds about the CSG group at Cannondale?
Sure. Yeah, I can kind of speak to both at the same time, actually, that I am implicitly part of CSG. But I'm Sam Ebert. I am now an 18-month resident of Norwalk. I moved here from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was a pro mountain biker and bike mechanic back in PA, and have recently taken on a product development position at Cannondale, where I design and then manage the engineering and design of our premium road racing bikes. Work with a lot of engineers, so I can probably sympathize with a lot of the people on this call. Gets complicated. But I love bicycles. I've always ridden them to get around. I believe in diverse transportation, being cars, scooters, mopeds, motorcycles, bicycles, of course. I really am motivated to make Norwalk a more diverse transportation environment, and it's been really great to meet all the people involved in the democratic process of implementing that. And then as far as CSG goes, CSG is I guess it's a subsect of Dorel Sports. Dorel Sports is a conglomerate of sporting brands within CSG. You have Cannondale Bicycles, the brand I work for, GT, Pacific, which is very common in department stores. You also have Mongoose and Schwinn, so two very famous American, more freestyle and all-terrain bike brands. I contribute mostly to, 95% to Cannondale. I also work with GT, and then I also head the transportation committee within CSG, where we are trying to get more involved in perpetuating bicycle and alternative transportation. We are traditionally a racing brand, so we have not paid a tremendous amount of attention to the very basic use of bicycles as transportation, which is kind of ironic because it is how Cannondale started. But we're back at it and really taking a big focus with it, and hopefully contributing to some local infrastructure as well.
Well, thank you very much, Sam, and we look forward to welcoming you as an official member next month.
Yeah, yes. Thank you.
Okay, and the only other thing on my chair's report is Mike Yosak let me know that October is Pedestrian Safety Month, So the pedestrian committee is working on a couple of initiatives for October. And if any of you have some ideas, please feel free to drop me a line and I will send them over to the pedestrian committee. So that's it for me. Moving on to standing reports. Greg, transportation planner update.
Yes, so pretty short. So just want to update you guys on the connectivity grant. We went back and forth again with the state. So the final designs for the connectivity grant are still being reviewed by them, especially along 136, where they have to pretty much sign off on every symbol and every sign where the placement is. So just waiting on that. Probably propose install probably around the springtime, maybe late spring, early summer of 21. We're kind of hoping for as all stays on track. Island Ave Safe Routes project, still in the design phase right now, still in the drafting process, so we'll keep you posted on that. A couple weeks ago, we met our bike plan subcommission. A few of you were on the call, and mainly we discussed Seaview Avenue and the improvements that could be made going forward. We discussed putting bike lane symbols in the current shoulder lane between Fort Point and East Avenue on the eastbound side and the shoulder. And then we also discussed exploring options to extend bike and ped facilities east of the Yacht Club, where the shoulder practically ends, right in front of Overton's and going up towards First Street. So right now we're working to kind of and some short-term and long-term solutions to improve the roadway, to accommodate both and improve biking and walking in that area. As you know, the parking lot there is not the best going in there, and cars are kind of sticking out everywhere, and there's no curb. Especially as you go in front of Overton's and even before that, the Yacht Club. So a lot of issues there, not only from a biking point of view, but also from a pedestrian as well. So we're going to kind of put together some ideas and put together some kind of countermeasures to better flow, to make that kind of better connection between East Norwalk and South Norwalk, especially as the East Norwalk TOD plan kind of comes to a head. And, that plan for the promenade on Seaview Avenue, which who knows how long that would take, but at least in the short term, we have something in the meantime that can help make that connection, especially as we look to install the Charros on Cove, 5th, and First Street as well. So that will help make that connection as well. So basically, we're looking to kind of split Seaview Ave into two parts and kind of make that extension come through Seaview Ave and extend that project into First Street, which would definitely help all modes of transportation, not only for biking and walking, but also for vehicles as well. Because, looking through crash data and other things, there's been a lot of, car crashes in the area just involving vehicles, just because all the blind spots, and you have the apartment complex right in the bend as Seaview turns into First as well. So lots to consider while we look at that, and especially a lot of right-of-way issues as well, which is a major issue as we look at those designs. So TMP will be, as we've already started, and we've been collaborating together, trying to figure out best practices to improve that area going forward. And we'll keep you posted on that.
Okay, thank you, Greg. But just to be clear, the Charros on Cove, First, and 5th are replacing what were existing Charros, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so right now there were some on Cove, and then 5th and First there wasn't. So once they repave, as Vanessa had talked about, they're doing that in coordination with their sidewalk plan. So once that's paved, then they will put the Charros on those roadways. But then that leaves a gap onto Seaview Avenue to
Right.
East Avenue. So that's where we're kind of looking in that to make that connection.
Yeah.
To kind of complete that. So yeah, we're looking at countermeasures to see what would be the best practice there.
Okay. Any other questions for Greg? And thank you for being brief since we're running a little late.
Yes, yeah. And everybody, and we've been on the call, so these guys already know what I'm talking about, some of these guys. So
Yep.
we'll keep you posted in the next meeting.
Okay, thanks very much.
Nancy, I just want to say something, Nancy.
Sure.
Real quick, just to elaborate a little bit on Greg. Thank you, Greg. Good job. Yeah, so as you know, there is an East Norwalk TOD, but I want to reiterate that we do not want to wait until the whole plan is done to show some kind of visible installation. So that's what we're working on, something that can be done in the short term and then look at the longer term solution for that area.
Thanks for the clarification, Catherine. Okay,
Yeah,
Judd.
Thank you, Catherine. I think most people here were on the call last week with Greg, and Greg kind of summed it up. I just want to add in that I hope we're still looking at Hanford, and I would like to continue talking about Fort Point Street in here, because those two streets help create a corridor for cyclists from the train station to Water Street, over the bridge, over to the bike lanes on Strawberry Hill, and then of course on Seaview, as Greg mentioned. I think everybody here knows that corner is an issue. So, but I just wanted to add those two things in there. So.
Yeah, we'll continue to look at those. Yeah.
Yep. And Greg, just to clarify, we're meeting again, the subcommittee later this month, right? To get back.
Yeah, so we're gonna meet on the 24th because we missed last the August one. So we'll meet again on the 24th, and then we'll get back on track again. I'll send out the invite through the Teams meeting, just so everybody has the link.
Great.
Yeah, and then and Hannaford, we're definitely looking at Hannaford for the Charlotte treatment and for the signage. So that's the one we're really looking at right now in this point in time. Right now, I'm working with DPW on that at this current moment in time. 4 Point might be a little harder, but we'll continue to push it and see what we can get. Especially in the short term.
Good. Okay.
Yep. Thanks to both of you, Judd and Greg. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Alrighty. Barbara, over to events, which has been challenging to say the least in the age of COVID.
I can help you catch up with your time because it's definitely uneventful. The National Night Out was canceled. It was supposed to be in August. It was moved to October 6th, and it's been canceled. They're toying with the idea. It seems to do a virtual version, and I don't really have a vision of that, but if anybody does, they would certainly love to hear it. They haven't really put out what they want to do. That's it.
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, one of the things we talked about is, and again, we don't know anything about the format of National Night Out as a virtual event, but that we could perhaps offer our educational pamphlets, which are for the most part in Spanish and in English, to people who would email a request with exactly what they want to the Commission's email address, and then we could send them PDF versions of whatever they want. So
I did talk to the printer today.
Oh, good.
And what Mike Yosak sent out about Pedestrian Month, there were a couple rather good brochures for young people on safe walking in a pedestrian, and they're going to put together those brochures for us, so that could be an addition.
Great. Thank you very much. Jim Carter, a brief update on the NRVT.
I got that message. Well, the headline may be brief, but it is amazingly significant in that I can report that at last we have dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, gotten all the signatures, and are ready to go with the missing link. Hopefully by the time that, yes, indeed, thank you. By the time that we come together next month, we actually should be in the RFP process and on our way to what should be construction. Realistically, let's count on the spring, perhaps sooner, but realistically this spring, and completion in the summer. So positive things on the missing link. In the spirit of briefness, I will say only that 40 Cross Street and Will Walk are both active, but there's no significant updates to pass on to you in terms of fundraising. As you know, to complete our matching grant portion, we've been in the fundraising mode. We've gotten 2 small grants from small businesses for a total of $8,500 in the last month. I really only go to that detail to say to you, if you know small businesses that are interested in trails and biking and alternative transportation, please match us up with them so we can approach them, because we still need $16,500 to complete our match. And I guess I would lastly say, I guess to Catherine, about, I know the City of Norwalk has a $50,000 pledge into this. I just want to make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed on that. And I know that Jessica was kind of on the point of that, and she's not on the point at the moment. So just raising.
Well, we had our conversation. What was it now? 3 months ago, right?
Something like that, I guess.
Yeah, so we were funded, we requested the $50,000 for the NRVT. And so specifically, it's in a line item called NRVT. So it's there for you. There is a legislative process to, I'm going to call it, quote unquote, grab those funds in order to be able to use it for the purposes that you need it used for. And we can talk, or you can talk with Mike offline about that process, because it isn't a capital budget account, and we would have to appropriate it to a contract. I'm being very simple here. Like with all legislative processes, they're a little complicated. Yeah, the $50,000 is there for you. I mean, for the NRVT, not for you.
I was almost off to Brazil.
Wow, really? Not today.
Well, maybe someplace else. Okay, let's wrap it with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim, and really kudos go to Jim, because he's been on this case like forever and kept on pushing, and finally it looks like we're here. So thank you for your efforts, Jim, and for not getting too discouraged and throwing in the towel along the way.
Yeah, great job, Jim. I think I've known you've been working on this for 5 years, right? Maybe?
Believe it or not, it's more like 10.
Okay, well, when I first met you, it's 5 years, and you know, it's great. I mean, there's nobody else out there in Norwalk doing this, pushing it the way you do. So I appreciate it.
We're hanging on.
Yep.
And more good things to come. So
Yep.
When I have more time, I'll talk more about those.
Well,
And I just want to say, Mike Yosak, who's not here, but I know he puts a lot of time in for this.
That's absolutely the tip of the hat to Mike and DPW and TP.
DMP.
Yes.
Thank you, Judd, for mentioning Mike. Yeah, I was waiting for you guys to finish. Mike has put his heart and soul into advancing everything NRVT. He and Jim are Misters NRVT.
absolutely.
So, hats off to both of you for seeing this through and following through with it and never letting it stop.
Still there.
Alrighty. moving on to the pedestrian plan, and there was an attachment to the agenda, which I will share in a minute here. The pedestrian committee has come up with a survey about walking in Norwalk, and we're hoping to get it out virtually the end of this week or sometime next week. We're leveraging the social media of a whole lot of groups within government, as well as obviously our social media, to distribute it. And at a later meeting, probably in November, we'll report back to you what the results are and what the pedestrian committee is then going to do with the results. And if you haven't already taken a look at it, you can read it at your leisure. The people that are on tonight that are also on the pedestrian committee, is there anything else I should mention? Nope, I guess not. Okie doke. Christine, safety and education.
Oh, hi, everybody. Thank you. So, not too much. I was inspired by Mike though with the pedestrian month. So the bike safety month is in May. So there's a lot of events, a good guide I just found. So I'd like to plan for that in May for the cities, do some events. Oh, sorry, my camera's messed up. I just noticed that. And then the second thing is I emailed Sandy from the rec. I sent her some videos from the League of American Bicyclists to see if they want to upload those, because originally she said, do I want to create a video, like a bike safety video? And honestly, I'm overwhelmed with the start of school and everything right now. So I haven't been able to do that. So I'm going to see if she can use those other videos. And then I just noticed on the website, our website, I'm wondering, I'd like to see the League of American Bicyclists listed as a hyperlink. I noticed it's not there. And I looked to see how I could like email on that website, but I didn't see I think it would be nice also to have a suggestions feature on the website for the public to offer suggestions about the bike walk, or some sort of, contact form, not just sign me up for the email list, but something else.
I'm taking notes.
Okay, I was just going to say you probably need to have a conversation with Tanner, who's actually next up on social media. Tanner.
Tanner, limit the characters for the comments.
Sorry, say that again, Colin?
I said limit the amount of characters on the comments.
Oh, is my keyword?
like Twitter?
Yeah, maybe a little bit longer, but.
Well, I think Twitter's up to 120 characters now, right?
160.
160, oh. Anyway, Tanner, we digress here.
Yeah. Okay, let me just finish writing this down. Okay, I got a couple of slides that I'll share super quick. Here we are. So here are our current outreach channels. We've got a Facebook page, we've got an email mailing list, we've got a website, and they all obviously have their merits, and they all also have room for improvement. Like we just saw with the website, there's some things that I can start with right away changing. The Facebook page in particular, I want to give lots of credit to Deborah for being very much on top of that. She's been posting a lot and posting a lot of good content. In particular, it's the kind of content that I think people like us are interested in. But one thing that I want to explore over the next little while is the kinds of people who are on the other side, who are joining the Facebook page, who might potentially join the page, the people who might join a mailing list or visit our website and see if what we're making is what is going to be most helpful or most useful to those people. So one big question that I would like to answer, and I don't think I'll answer it today, but if you have ideas, let me know about them. But what do we want people to do? People who we, because we want people to visit our website. We want people to visit our Facebook page. But once they get there, what do we ultimately want to persuade them to do. I've got some ideas here. Obviously, we want people to walk more and bike more. That I think is number one, but I think we can go farther than that. There are other things that in the past we have invited people to do, or that we could invite people to do. For example, to call into our meetings. We very rarely get members of the public to join in, but actually that's how I found the commission, is through the website. And then I joined the meetings back when they were in person. We post a lot of things that allow people to become more educated about biking and walking, about infrastructure, about complete streets, for example. We, every once in a while when we have events, we will promote those events through these channels. We might potentially invite people, encourage people to invite their friends to also engage with us. We might, if there's a particular initiative we have, we might invite people to email their elected officials to support it. So that's kind of what's on my mind. If there are other ideas, I don't want to take up more time in this meeting, but if you have more ideas about what we might encourage people to do through these channels, send them to me, because I want to kind of compile this into a more cohesive strategy. Part of the reason for that is because I think that there's room for another channel. In particular, I'm thinking about a group, probably on Facebook, where people could interact with one another, where we could get people besides just I don't know how many people are on this call, 15, 20 of us, that are interested and passionate about these topics and progress in these topics, to interface with one another and with us. And so in order to do that right, I've kind of just here briefly split up what the kind of content we've shared in the past. This is just like the last 6 posts that we've made on Facebook. And you can kind of split them up between people who are casually interested and people who are advocates, or maybe who are very enthusiastic. And then also you can split it up between biking and walking for transportation and biking and walking for recreation. I'm still chewing on this. I'm not proposing anything here. I'm just kind of breaking down the different kinds of people that we might talk to and what they might want. So again, if you have ideas, please send them my way. And that's it.
Thank you, Tanner, and perhaps at some point in the future, you might want to get a few interested folks together to do a little brainstorming about our whole social media outreach. And as you say, I think when we spoke the other day, we had a website because everybody had a website, so we figured we needed a website and didn't give a whole lot of thought to that. And the same thing with our Facebook page. And I think, that maybe now that we have somebody like you on board, we really do need to sort of take a step back and say, what is it we're really trying to accomplish? And once we figure that out, then that should help guide us into the direction that we take with the various social media outlets.
Yeah, I think your idea to get a small group together and brainstorm is a great one. So if you have ideas, or if you're interested in being part of that group, contact me and I'll include you.
All right. Thank you very much, Tanner.
One other thing I wanted to mention quick, and it's something that Nancy and I discussed. I want to explore the idea of creating a listserv so that we can conduct some of the business that we would do in this meeting asynchronously via email. Nancy explained to me that one of the impediments to that in the past has been the Freedom of Information Act, the requirement that everything be public. And so one of my action items that I'll take is to explore that and see if we might be able to remain transparent and also conduct some business over email.
Yep, and at some point when it's the appropriate time, we'll need to explain to legal what it is we want to do and make sure that we're still within Freedom of Information guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly something to think about.
Yeah, so if anybody knows about that in more detail, please contact me.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Tanner. I'm very excited about seeing some new directions for our social media. Okay, the next report is for our strategic plan, and we do that once a quarter, so we will be doing an update at our October meeting, which probably still will not be Deanna because she's kind of busy. Not that Teresa is not. Okay, and walking update. Teresa?
Sure. So we don't have, similar to Barbara's report out on events, we don't have a lot to report. But one thing, you know, kind of right alongside what Tanner was talking about, and I was just sending you an email while you were talking, but one thing I would like to do is encourage people to walk in general, but also, you know, encouraging people to walk in groups. So we haven't been doing a lot of that lately, but before COVID and before the health department got bogged down with a lot of the COVID response work, we were really trying to encourage people to get together to walk, to meet neighbors, to explore their community together. There's a lot of research in public health to suggest that physical activity, you know, it's easier to get people to increase their physical activity if they have a social group and a social network. And so we're trying to get, you know, organized community walking groups. And so one of the things that I'd love to be able to do through social media is to gather people virtually before they get together in person and go for a walk. So probably something that will be more likely to, you know, really hit the ground running, no pun intended, hit the ground walking, I guess, in the spring would be that sort of thing. And so one of the main walking updates is that we're in the process of writing our proposal to the state for our block grant, which funds a lot of Julia's time and some of the Norwalker work. So, you know, as strict as possible, then Norwalker work is the creation, design, printing, and distribution of the Norwalker maps. But really, we look at it much more holistically in that the Norwalker maps are a tool that we use to try to encourage people to get walking in their community. And so that includes in-person events, it includes walking routes that don't include Norwalker, and it includes the work that you're all talking about in terms of making it a safer and more attractive place to walk. You know, we don't want it to just be safe. We also want it to be appealing. So all of these things that we're talking about. So Julia will probably be in touch with you, Nancy, to run by a couple ideas that we have. You know, we'll have our standard Norwalker stuff in there, but see if we can get a little bit more specific on how we can better support the commission and the pedestrian committee specifically.
And I know in the past, some commissioners have led walks as well, and that might be something that we would look to implement again in the future.
Yeah.
So thank you. That all sounds very positive. Thank you very much.
That might be something that could be quite easily facilitated through a Facebook group. You know, some place where we can invite people who are interested in walking so they can self-organize, or that we can organize them into walks.
Yeah, great. And then Nancy, I don't know if you wanted me to talk at all about the Yale students now or later.
If you would like to do that now, that would be great.
Okay. So each year, the Yale School of Public Health reaches out to the health department and other community partners around the state, mostly in New Haven, but also we drew some of them down here to the Norwalk area to see. They have community-based practice placements for students to come into communities and do community-based research. They've worked with the commission before, I guess. I think it was before it was a commission, and when it was a task force to do some focus groups or structured interviews around people's perceptions of biking and walking, and you know what they thought of some of the, you know, what they thought of bike lanes and how important they thought, you know, pedestrians infrastructure was. They've done work for us before on our childhood obesity surveillance data. So they've done analysis of done the epidemiology around the analysis. And so really what we would get is a group of 4 or 5 students that self-select into our topic area who would be interested in helping us answer a very discrete and manageable research question. And it's, you know, the topics range from, you know, all kinds of different public health topics, access to healthcare and all that sort of thing. But I had mentioned it to Nancy to see if the commission possibly had a research question that we didn't have the capacity to answer on our own, that it would help to have 4 or 5 master's level public health students kind of brainstorm and then implement a research project. So you can think of it as a research project in its most general form, but they've also done things like create an evaluation plan. So if the commission, I almost think of the way you worked through the strategic plan, helping to, create a framework that then the commission then takes forward and uses, almost like a tool, best practices and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to put it out there to see if there was anything in particular that folks thought could be accomplished. I don't know the total number of hours, but it really is a very brief project over the course of one semester.
So it needs to be a very focused study.
The scope needs to be pretty narrow, and we need to be, and I would probably end up being their preceptor, so I would need to give them very specific, instructions on how to move forward.
Yep.
So it's just something to think about.
Judd, is there anything that the bike plan committee would like to research but doesn't either have the expertise or the time or both?
I'm thinking.
Okay. Well, when you get done thinking, if you come up with something, give Teresa.
I will.
Give Teresa a shout out. Great.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll talk to you, Nancy, about it first, and
okay.
And then we can go to Teresa. So, and I think it could be accomplished in a month easily. So, yep.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Teresa, and we really appreciate you attending these meetings, because you probably are impacted more than anybody else by this whole COVID business, which is not to say that a lot of other people on the call are not significantly impacted either. But thank you.
Nancy?
Yeah, Christine.
Sorry, I was just thinking about the question to Teresa and about the students and something. And I keep coming back to the diversity of our city and how I think this Bike Walk Commission, really we should be reflecting some of the diversity and addressing this and, showing an awareness to the city that we are sensitive and aware of needs. And I think some of the minority communities have a big need with public health, and maybe to outreach to that group, perhaps with some project regarding obesity or something like that. I don't know. I just want to throw that out.
Can I lift that up for a sec? Because I had a very similar thought just yesterday on Sunday. My wife and I, we live in Golden Hill. We rode up to about where Valencia is. I'm not sure what the name of that neighborhood is, but it's about a 3-mile ride. And my wife remarked to me, she doesn't ride very often, but she remarked to me, she's like, I'm surprised at how many people are out riding bikes. And they were almost all people of color, and they were almost all riding for transportation, or at least it looked like they were riding for transportation as opposed to recreation. And I realized that we have nobody like that on the commission. And I thought, why is that? And who do I know who I might invite to be on the commission? So I'm still chewing on that. I don't know very many people of color in Norwalk, to be honest. I've got work to do there. I think we all have probably work to do. But if people know people of color, people who ride for transportation, I think that they could be represented on here a lot better than they are now.
Well, I can guarantee you that there's going to be at least one opening on the commission in the coming year, because I do plan to retire as of June 30th, 2021. So this would be a good time to begin to think, because it would really be helpful to invite potential candidates to listen in at a meeting or two, so they have some idea what they're getting involved in, as well as perhaps inviting them to work with one of our committees or on one of our projects.
I absolutely love this idea, and I would love to flesh it out a little bit more. I mean, both bike safety and pedestrian safety and encouraging those means of transportation are considered highly geared towards health equity. So we're very concerned about making sure that, folks who are impacted disproportionately by certain health, disparities have more opportunity. And so, Tanner, you've pointed out a really important, that we think a lot of the recreation side, but we really at the health department want to make sure the infrastructure is in place so that, so that transportation isn't as much of a problem, and then there are health benefits as a result, right? If people are able to bike and walk safely, if they don't have better means of transportation, that's even better. So I mean, I think I'm already thinking we could talk about the cultural appropriateness of some of the messaging around pedestrian and bike infrastructure, and those behaviors of asking people to bike and walk, or encouraging them to bike and walk. How culturally appropriate are those messages? In addition to what you're talking about representation, we could also look at the messaging piece, and then also getting feedback from the community about what they see, what routes do they need to make sure are safe. And we could, that sounds like it would be really up the alley of this group. Whatever research work they do, they always do like to have the students be able to work in the community and speak with community members or community stakeholders. So I think, gathering feedback from folks would be a good task for them as well.
Yeah. Teresa, can I just add to that? What, with your outreach to the Yale school, maybe to perhaps see if we can have some minority students specifically, or some mentors for the other students that are people of color. So when we do the community outreach, there's, they're represented also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's thank you all for your thoughts. That's
Nancy,
probably...
can I say
Catherine.
one thing also? Thank you, Teresa et al. And Tanner and everybody for bringing this up. One of the other things that have come more that it's accelerated, which the pedestrian committee was already looking at, was improving sidewalks, installing sidewalks within the 1.5 miles of the schools. It's become actually more highlighted now because of COVID and the fact that the buses have assigned seats for the kids. So somebody can't just hop the bus anymore. I guess that was happening. So I think we really need to look at the cultural aspect of where that 1.5 miles is to a school and where somebody lives. So take that into consideration as well when we're looking at all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Okay, moving on to old business. The safety card, I believe we have implemented all of the suggestions that were made at the last meeting. And again, that was included as an attachment to the agenda. Whoops. It's a two-sided card. One side has the bicycle safety information on it, and whoop, the other side has walking safety tips on it. And if everybody is okay with the verbiage and the pictures on each side, the next question, and perhaps given that it's 7:25, it might be something that we should put on our October agenda. But the problem now will be how do we go about distributing it? In the past, we've been able to print things and put them in places where people go. I'm not sure that that's a good strategy in the area of COVID, but perhaps there are places, gyms, I guess, are one place that people are beginning to go back to. So if there are places we can physically place some of these cards, and then also if we can leverage some social media to make the cards available as PDFs. So my suggestion will be to put this on the agenda for October, and for all of us to put our thinking caps on. It's actually only about 3 weeks till our next meeting, because the September meeting is as late in September as it can be, because Labor Day was as late as it can be. And that we address that as part of old business at our next meeting. Is that okay with the rest of you?
Yeah, Nancy, can you, maybe you've sent that out before, but I'd like to review it again, because I see a spelling error in there.
It's with the agenda for tonight's meeting, Christine.
Gotcha. I'll send you some of the corrections.
That'd be great, thank you.
Nancy, I was just wondering, what size handout are we looking for?
I asked the printer what size, and I think he was recommending something around 5 by 7, but I'd have to go back and give you the
Okay.
the exact. Obviously we need it to be bigger than a business card because we'd have to distribute it with magnifying glasses for people to be able to read it.
Yeah, I just didn't, it looks like it's sized for 11 by 17. That's the only, so they'd resize it and adjust
Yeah,
it.
you know what? I will send that out because I have some of the things I want to send out anyway. I will go back to the email and I'll send that out to everybody either later tonight or tomorrow.
I could also sneak this to my graphic designer and just make him think it's for Cannondale business.
Well, we actually have paid a printer
Good.
to do the design, but thanks for your offer. Maybe we'll use the sneaky approach next time.
It's very easy.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Yep.
Anybody else on the safety handout? Okay, if not, the last old business item is we have talked about having a vice chair for the commission to act when the chair is not available, and also that at least one other person knows what the chair does. And Judd has graciously agreed to be nominated to do that. And I guess we probably need a formal motion to do that. So if there's any discussion or if somebody would like to move that, and it probably shouldn't be Judd. Yeah,
I'll move
Tanner
it.
and Colin, you want to be second?
Sure, I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
I'm happy to be vice chair, but right now in my life, I don't have room to be chair when Nancy leaves, so we have to figure that out. I know it, vice chair is usually rolls into chair, but just with family commitments I have and things, I just don't see that I'll have the time to put in the to prepare these agendas and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I think
keep that all in mind.
Yeah, I think one thing going forward, because this is the first time we've had a vice chair, but going forward, it certainly could be something where then perhaps the vice chair does a lot of the more clerical functions, like preparing the agendas and making sure that the minutes get distributed where they need to get distributed and that sort of stuff. So, going forward, what Judd and I end up doing as chair and vice chair may work for another pair of people, or maybe based on our experience in the next few months, we can make some suggestions about how the chair and vice chair going forward might split up the duties. Because one of the advantages that I have is I am retired, which gives me a little more time used to give me a little more time during the day. Doesn't seem to so much anymore. So if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. And we, by my clock, we're exactly 7:30. So if we could have a motion
Nancy,
to adjourn.
Can I,
Colin.
sorry, I popped in late, so I missed the beginning of new business. I do have one point of interest just to bring up
Sure.
for consideration. I was on the Facebook not too long ago, and I saw that our state senator, Mr. Duff, was out for a bike ride and posted about the beautiful view from Oyster Shell Park. And I reached out and asked him if he would be up for an informal ride with a member or two of the commission to discuss Norwalk bike and pedestrian infrastructure on a bicycle. And he was open to the idea. We just need to plan something and reach out to his assistant. So if that's something that other people are interested in,
Dibs on a spot, Colin.
it's an idea out there. So
I'd be happy to personally.
yeah, I was actually, one of the things I thought was if we could get our hands on a couple of e-bikes,
Oh, yeah.
it would make touring the city and the mileage literally that we could get out of that experience probably double or triple.
Well, I have 86,000 right now. So
okay.
Yeah.
You've got more than probably any bike shop or manufacturer I've heard of. So that's great.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's global.
Okay,
Okay.
Colin and Sam and Tanner, do you guys want to just coordinate? And if you
Sure.
have a time and date, if you could send it out to the rest of the commission in case anybody would like to join you.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Nancy,
Yes,
just,
Judd.
yeah, just want to add one thing. It's about biking, walking, but it's not Norwalk, but it's close by. Last weekend with a friend, I walked the Wilton section of the Norwalk River Valley Trail. It's about 3 miles one way. So if you go out and back, it's a nice 6-mile walk. And it's right next door. If you haven't been there, I would suggest you go check it out. So,
Thanks.
yep,
I walk there very frequently, and it's a really nice facility.
yep,
And then you can treat yourself to a snack at Orem's afterwards.
yes.
Okay, if that's it, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Well,
Judd, okay, a second. Thank you, Colin. And thank you, everybody that's hung on till the end, and thanks to our 2 presenters earlier in the meeting. And we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
all right, thank you.
you.